You won't believe what happened in today's story.
Earl's shop smelled of burnt oil and fear that morning. The previous day's coupe still sat in Bay 1, its windshield reflecting nothing but his own worried eyes. The bell over the door jingled. He didn't look up, but then the voice came, familiar, colder than he remembered. "Dad." Earl's son Marcus stepped in, tall, broad-shouldered, but with the same restless energy that had kept him away from the garage for years. The last time Earl had seen him, he was leaving for college, angry at the life of grease and steel that had trapped them all. "What are you doing here?" Earl asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I heard about the incidents," Marcus said. He glanced at the lift, at the dark stain on the floor, and shivered. People talking, about accidents, disappearances, about this place. Earl's gut tightened. "It's the shop. Things happen here. I've been trying to keep it quiet." Marcus laughed, harsh, brittle. "Quiet? You've been covering up for years, keeping secrets while people vanish and machines go mad." Tommy hovered near the doorway, awkward, unsure where to stand. Earl gestured him back. This was family business. "Secrets," Earl said, voice rising. "I've done nothing but keep this place running, keep people safe." Marcus stepped closer, eyes cold. "Safe? You call this safe?" He gestured toward the bay, toward the pit, toward the dark stain under the lift. "All these years you've ignored it, you let it fester, and now it's worse, it's alive." Earl swallowed hard. "Alive? It's not alive." But before he could finish, a wrench clattered from the wall behind him. Not from Tommy, not from any hand. Just fell, spinning, and landed at Marcus's feet. Marcus froze, pale. "You see, it's not just the shop, it's this family. This town, everything's rotting from the inside." Earl felt the old anger rise, anger, yes, but also fear. Fear that the boy he'd raised might see the truth sooner than he was ready to. "Get out," he said, voice low, trembling. Before it sees you." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not leaving. I need to know what's real. I need to see it for myself." The air around them thickened. The lights flickered overhead. The pit seemed darker than ever. Earl realized with a sinking heart that he could no longer protect Marcus, not from the shop and not from what it had become. Something shifted beneath the floor. A faint scrape, like metal dragged across concrete, rose up from the pit. Both men froze. Earl whispered almost to himself, "It's waiting." Marcus swallowed, waiting for what? Earl didn't answer. He only watched the pit, as though it could swallow them both whole at any moment. And somewhere deep inside, he knew the shop had already chosen. Part 12, Midnight Customers. The shop was quiet, empty, save for the low hum of the fluorescent lights. Earl worked alone, checking inventory, wiping down greasy benches. Marcus had left hours ago, muttering about leaving town, about the shop's weight pressing on everyone who entered. Then the first car arrived. Earl heard the roar of an engine over the empty street, unusual for this hour. He peeked out. An old black sedan rolled up, headlights dim, fogged from the cool night air. No one in the driver's seat. He stepped outside, keys in hand. The sedan stopped, engine idling. A soft hiss came from the vents, like breathing. Earl's heart thudded. "Hello." No answer. The passenger door creaked open by itself. Earl froze. Then the driver's side door swung slowly, empty. From the rearview mirror he saw something, or someone, sitting in the back seat. A shadowy figure, hunched, hands pressed against the glass. When he squinted, the face twisted, not human, yet not entirely monstrous either. It shifted, slipping into nothing as soon as he blinked. Earl stumbled back. The sedan rolled forward slightly, as if nudged by unseen hands, and came to a stop right under the bay lights. He tried to approach it, but the shop doors slammed shut behind him. Tommy had been dozing on a bench, woken by the sound. His eyes widened. "Dad, they're here." "Who's here?" Earl asked, voice tight. But the sedan's windows were dark now. The shape inside was gone. Only the faint reflection of the shop's interior stared back at them. Then another car, a rusted pickup, engine coughing like it was about to die. Same story, empty, no driver, yet lights flickering as if someone or something was inside. One after another, vehicles appeared in the lot. None driven, none with keys in ignition, all stopping perfectly under the lights. The shop smelled of oil, rust, and something else, something sharp, coppery, like iron blood. Earl's knees shook. They want in," he whispered. Tommy backed away, "But there's no one here." "That's the point," Earl muttered. "They're not looking for us, they're looking for the shop." The floor beneath them rumbled faintly, the pit's darkness seeming to stretch toward the idle cars. Earl realized the shop itself was alive, calling to the machines, bending them to its will. And somewhere deep under concrete and steel, something waited, patient and hungry. The night had only begun. Part 13, The Ledger. Earl had never been fond of the back office. Old papers stacked high, the smell of mildew and dust clinging to everything. But that night, after the midnight customers, he knew he had to check it. On the far shelf behind jars of nuts and bolts lay an old ledger, leather-bound, blackened with age, edges fraying. He'd never touched it before, something about it called to him now. He opened it. The pages were yellow, the ink smeared in places. But it wasn't just ink, there were streaks, deep red in color, dried into the paper like blood. Names, dates, amounts, debts owed, some recent, some decades old. Tommy leaned over his shoulder. What is that? Earl's eyes scanned the lines. He recognized some, customers, friends, even his own father's name. And then the odd ones, names of people long dead, some missing, some who'd vanished without a trace. The ledger pulsed faintly under the light, the red ink seeming to move, shift, almost drip. Earl's stomach twisted. "Look at this," he whispered. It's like the shop keeps track, keeps score." Tommy's hands trembled. "Score? What do you mean?" Earl traced a finger along a page. One name glowed faintly, as though heat pressed from below. He recoiled. The letters seemed to rearrange themselves, spelling out warnings, curses, threats. A draft blew through the office, rustling the pages. The smell of iron filled the room. Earl realized with sinking horror, the shop wasn't just haunted, it wasn't just alive. It was accounting for every wrong, every lost soul, every act of neglect. Tommy backed away. We need to burn it." Earl shook his head. "You can't destroy it, you don't destroy this. It's part of the shop, part of everything under this concrete." The pit beneath them groaned, low and menacing. The ledger trembled in Earl's hands. He dropped it, and it landed open, pages fluttering violently. And then one name burned into the paper in letters that weren't ink. Earl Whitman. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the shop, a wrench rolled across the floor, stopping at the edge of the pit. Earl felt it deep inside. The ledger was not just a record, it was a summoning. And the shop was ready to collect. Part 14, The Lift. Earl and Tommy hadn't slept. The shop was silent, but the tension in the air pressed against their chests like steel beams. The stain under the lift had spread again, dark and wet, creeping toward the edges of the bay. Earl was wiping down tools when the lift shuddered. He froze, the controls were off. Tommy's hands hovered over them, confused. Did you touch it?" "No," Earl said, his voice was tight. "It's moving itself." The car atop the lift, a battered pickup left from a tow, rose slowly, smoothly, as if guided by an invisible hand. The chains creaked under the weight and the hydraulic hoses rattled, though no power flowed. Earl's eyes went wide. Something under it. Tommy swallowed. Under what? The pickup shuddered, lifted higher. Beneath it, something massive pressed against the undercarriage, hanging heavy, dark, as if the shadows themselves had weight. Earl couldn't see it clearly, only a shape, shifting, alive, and impossibly dense. The air smelled of burnt oil and iron. A low hum vibrated in the floor, deep, resonant, calling to something buried in the concrete. "Move it down," Tommy shouted, panic rising. Earl shook his head. "No, don't. Whatever it is, it wants to show itself." The lift jerked violently, almost throwing them back. The shadow beneath the truck stretched downward, merging with the darkness of the pit. Earl felt the pressure in his chest increase, like the air itself was thicker, heavier, trying to push him off his feet. Then a low, guttural sound, a groan, a growl rippled up from the pit. The shape shifted, hungering. Earl recognized it with horror. It was the amalgamation of everything the shop had swallowed, every tool, every stain, every lost soul pressing upward at once. Tommy stumbled backward. "Dad, we can't stop it." Earl clenched his fists. "Then we survive it, we get out alive." The lift quivered once more. The shadow beneath swung slightly, brushing against the truck's tires, sending sparks of light along the concrete. Then it seemed to settle, waiting, patient. And the shop exhaled, a long, shuddering breath that rattled the windows and lights. Earl knew deep down that nothing in the shop was stationary anymore. The machines, the floors, the shadows, they were awake, and they were hungry. Part 15, Ash and Oil. The night was heavy with the smell of gasoline and something darker, something sweet, coppery, metallic. Earl worked quietly, wiping the lift controls, trying to shake off the image of the shadow beneath the pickup. Then the first spark appeared. A small flame flickered on a coil of rope hanging from the rafters. Earl froze. It didn't consume the rope. Smoke twisted and curled upward, black and oily, but when he touched the rope, it was cold, untouched by heat. Tommy stared wide-eyed. "It's fire, how?" Earl shook his head. "It's not fire, it's imitation." From the floor, droplets of oil began to ignite spontaneously, burning on contact with air but leaving no residue. The flames licked the concrete, the metal, the tools, yet everything remained untouched, as if the shop itself was mocking the laws of nature. A wrench on the wall rattled, hopping from its hook as if anxious. Sparks danced across the floor toward the service pit. Earl stepped back, heart hammering. The pit seemed to breathe in rhythm with the flickering flames, black smoke curling from its depths. Tommy whispered, "It's alive, the whole place." Earl nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the shadows playing along the walls. He could feel the presence beneath the concrete, rising like heat, coiling like smoke. It wanted something. It wanted them to act or to fail. The flames surged for a second, high and bright, then vanished. Not a mark left on concrete, metal, or flesh. Only the smell of burnt oil lingered, and the sense of something watching, waiting, hung heavier than ever. Earl swallowed, voice tight. It's testing us, seeing if we break." Tommy shivered. "And if we do?" The shop rumbled, low and guttural. A tool clattered in the far corner. The stain under the lift pulsed faintly, spreading another inch across the floor. Earl clenched his fists. "Then it feeds, and we're next." Outside, the night wind shifted. Something stirred beneath the asphalt of the lot. The shop had opened its mouth, and it was hungry. Part 16, The First Dead Man. Earl had always known, deep down, that the shop's foundation carried a weight heavier than concrete, but he hadn't wanted to face it, not fully. That night the lift groaned under the pickup, the shadow beneath pressing against the metal, alive and patient. The stain on the floor had spread past the lift's base, curling like veins into the pit. A strange metallic smell rose, sharper than gasoline, mixing with the copper tang that lingered constantly. Tommy's voice trembled. "Dad, I think something's under there, in the concrete." Earl nodded grimly. He knelt at the edge of the pit, fingertips brushing the blackened floor. The vibrations beneath his palm weren't mechanical. They were alive, waiting, hungry. Then a hand emerged, pale, stiff, coated in dirt and ash. Its fingers clutched the edge of the pit. Earl gasped, stumbling back. Tommy froze, eyes wide. The hand belonged to a man, dressed in tattered clothes that had long since rotted to dust. His face was blank, expressionless, eyes empty. The first dead man of the shop. Earl's father had built this place over the Miller barn, over the fire, over what had been buried in haste, over the screaming of souls no one wanted to remember. And now the concrete was giving up its first secret. The corpse rose slowly, dragging itself from the pit. The flesh was dry, smellless, almost unreal, yet its presence pressed on the chest like a physical weight. Earl swallowed hard. It remembers everything, the fire, the blood, the screams. Tommy whispered, voice cracking, "And now it's free." The man's empty gaze swept the garage. Every tool, every shadow, every stain seemed to tremble in recognition. The floor pulsed again, the stain growing, creeping, connecting to the pit. It wasn't just the dead man, it was all the forgotten, all the lost, all the restless beneath the concrete, rising through the shop like a tide of iron and ash. Earl's hand shook as he reached for a wrench. "We have to survive it," he said. "We have no choice." The dead man lurched forward toward the lift, toward the pickup, toward the floor that was slowly swallowing the shop whole. And Earl realized with sinking horror, this was only the beginning. Part 17, The Disappearance. The shop smelled of iron and ash, thick and suffocating. Earl and Tommy had stayed late, trying to contain the chaos of the lift, the shadow, the stain that spread like a living thing. Tommy edged toward the service pit. I'm going to see if I can stop it. Maybe there's something down there we can grab." Earl grabbed his arm. "No, don't." But Tommy was already peering over the edge. The pit yawned below like a black mouth, darkness writhing and shifting. The vibrations had grown stronger, the whispering louder, voices threading into their minds. "Dad, it's moving," Tommy whispered. "It wants me." Before Earl could react, a shadow shot from the depths. It wrapped around Tommy like smoke, pulling him toward the black void. He screamed, a strangled sound that echoed off the walls, drowned by the hum of unseen machinery. Earl lunged forward, but the pit seemed to push him back, an invisible wall of pressure. Tommy's hands scraped against the concrete, fingers slipping, his boots scraping the edge. "Tommy," Earl shouted, voice raw, pounding on the floor. Then the boy was gone. Nothing remained but the faint ripple in the pit, as though the darkness had swallowed him whole. No scream, no ragged breathing, only silence. Earl sank to his knees, heart hammering. The wrench in his hand felt useless, weightless. The shop had taken him. The lights flickered, the stain under the lift pulsed again, reaching outward as if tasting the fear in Earl's blood. He understood with grim clarity, the pit didn't just consume objects, it consumed people, souls, memories, life. Earl's hand trembled as he reached into the pocket of his coverall, clutching the spare key he had taken from the Reynolds boys' pickup weeks ago. It might be the only thing keeping him tethered. The shop was alive, and it had decided he stayed. Tommy did not. Part 18, The Feast of Iron. The shop had changed. The lights hummed low, shadows twisting unnaturally along the walls. The air smelled of burnt oil, rust, and something worse, something metallic, alive. Earl moved cautiously, wrench in hand. The lift stood silent, but beneath it the darkness pulsed, hungry. The stain on the floor had spread, creeping along the concrete like veins of rust. Then the machines stirred. Air compressors rattled violently. A grinder on the wall spun without power, sparks flying, though nothing metal met its blade. The hydraulic lift moaned, groaned, flexing as though alive. Tools slid across benches, rolling to the edge, stopping at the pit as if offering themselves. Earl realized with horror the shop was feeding. He backed away, heart pounding. Every sound, every hum, creak, rattle was deliberate. The engines idled, pistons pumping, exhausts coughing, though none had fuel. Tires spun in place, brakes squealed as if the machines themselves were aware of their own movements. Something massive shifted beneath the lift. The shadow that had swallowed Tommy the night before pulsed upward, interacting with the machinery above. Sparks flew along chains, wires hummed, metal twisted slightly, reshaping itself in impossible ways. Earl's breath caught. The shop wasn't just haunted, it was hunting. The lift, the wrenches, the grinders, the engines, they were tools of a predator, instruments of its hunger. A wrench clattered against the edge of the pit, then another, then a dozen, spinning toward him with precision. He ducked, feeling the wind of them passing, narrowly missing his head. The lift groaned, the pickup atop it shuddered, then jerked slightly, as though something heavy swung beneath it. The stain spread closer to him, thickening, pulling at his boots. Earl realized the truth, whispered to himself. The shop didn't just feed on humans, it fed on iron, steel, oil, and fear. The machines had remembered everything the shop had seen. Every neglect, every mistake, every soul lost. And now they were hungry. Earl clutched the wrench tighter. Every instinct screamed, survive, run, betray, live. The machines leaned toward him. The shadows beneath the lift pulsed, merging with the floors, walls, and tools. The feast had begun. And Earl knew he might be next. Part 19, The Choice. The shop was alive in every sense. Shadows crept along the walls, pulsing with a rhythm that matched Earl's pounding heartbeat. The lift groaned beneath the pickup, the shape beneath it stretching, alive, hungry. Tools skittered across the floor. Sparks hissed and leapt from metal. Earl backed into the far corner, wrench raised. His chest heaved. The stain under the lift had spread, veins of rust crawling toward him, reaching, tasting. He understood now. Survival demanded a choice. The shop wanted a soul, and it would take one willingly or violently. He could try to escape, and Tommy was gone, swallowed by the pit. But the shop didn't just want bodies. It wanted control. It wanted loyalty, obedience, a sacrifice to mark the end. A chain rattled, then fell across the floor in front of him, pointing toward the pit. The lift jerked, sparks hissed. The shadow beneath swayed, heavier now, patient, calculating. Earl's hands shook. He could feel the pull, the temptation. Give himself, let the shop claim him and end the torment, or betray the one connection left, his son's memory, the key to their survival. A whisper rose from the pit. Not a voice, but a command, a hunger, choose. Earl's mind raced. If he stayed, he would die. If he fled, the shop would follow. The machines, the shadows, the stain, they would never let him go. Then he saw it, the spare key still in his pocket, a key to a truck, to an exit, to a chance. But using it might betray the balance, awaken something worse. He clenched his teeth, made a decision. Survival demanded betrayal. He ran to the office, pulled open the door to the tow lot. Outside, moonlight glinted off twisted metal, shadows pooling among the cars. The key slid into the ignition of the nearest pickup, the one that had never had a driver, and the engine roared to life, impossibly, violently. The shop responded immediately. Wrenches flew, chains rattled, sparks erupted. The shadow beneath the lift surged upward, but Earl didn't stop. He floored the gas, tires squealing, engine roaring. Behind him, the garage trembled, walls groaning, lights flickering. The machines screamed in rage, the pit seethed. But the pickup moved, carrying him away. And somewhere inside, Earl knew the shop had chosen what, or who, it wanted next. The night swallowed the sound of the engine. Part 20, The Last Car. The garage was silent now, empty of mechanics, empty of life, yet it breathed. The lift sagged under the weight of the shadow beneath. The stain on the floor pulsed faintly, veins of rust crawling toward the corners, curling like a web of hunger. Earl had escaped barely, but the shop didn't forget. The machines hummed, quiet now but patient, waiting. The bell over the door jingled. A single car rolled in, headlights dim, engine idling perfectly. No driver appeared. The sedan stopped under the bay lights as if it had been summoned. From somewhere deep in the shop, a faint whisper rose. Not a voice, but a pull, a tug at the air itself. The door opened on its own. The car's windows reflected the empty garage, but something moved behind the glass, shapes shifting, waiting. The shadow beneath the lift stirred, responding. The lights flickered. A wrench clattered to the floor. The air thickened, the metallic tang of oil and iron filling every corner. Earl, watching from the lot outside, felt the pull of the shop like a hand on his chest. He knew this was the final test. Whoever, or whatever, entered next would seal the fate of the garage. The car crept forward, perfectly aligned under the lift. Its engine hummed a low, steady rhythm. And then the pit opened wider, black as midnight, reaching, hungry. The shop exhaled, a long, rumbling breath that shook the walls, the ceiling, the air itself. Somewhere deep beneath concrete, iron, and rust, the first dead man stirred. The shadows shifted, tools danced, and the stain spread toward the bay like a living thing. The car's headlights flickered. Inside, shapes pressed against the glass, faces pale, twisted, screaming silently. The shop had claimed its final customer. Earl felt it from outside, the pull, the hunger, the memory of all it had consumed. The grease-stained hands had finished its story, for now. The garage stood silent again, doors closed, lights flickering once before steadying. The wind shifted, the night swallowed the rest. And the shop waited patient for the next soul brave or foolish enough to
Thank you
enter.
for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to see more stories.